Hey everyone, my name is Stanimir Markov. Everybody calls me Stan, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Runecast. I'm also VCDX number 74, and here's my Twitter handle over there. So we're just going to go through a quick company and product overview. First of all, what is Runecast? So our product is Runecast Analyzer, and it provides proactive management for VMware. Basically what it does is it discovers potential risks in your VMware environment before they cause some major outages. We do that in a very unique way. We use the information from the VMware knowledge base, as well as information from security hardening guide, best practices, even social media. We automate all of that and analyze the configuration and logs of Vsphere, vSAN, and NSX and discover those potential risks proactively. How are we unique? Well, most of the other VMware management products, they're focused on capacity performance management or on reactive monitoring. So basically, they tell you what is up and down, or maybe if you have overutilization on one of your resources. We decided to focus on this particular problem because we have been in the trenches of VMware operations for many years. And this is the main problem that we experienced that we did not have a solution for. First of all, a little bit more about the founders. So we all used to work for a huge company called IBM. We had to manage a lot of IBM customers running VMware over the years. We actually built the VMware Center of Excellence inside IBM. So we were defining best practices, security technical specifications. Basically, we were living and breathing VMware for many, many years. We are highly certified in VMware. Everybody's at least VCAP. As mentioned, I'm VCDX. And we have also built a quite strong network within the VMware community along the years, so I know quite a lot of you already. This is how we have been solving problems over the years, and I'm sure a lot of admins are still doing that day after day, pretty much firefighting. So whenever there is a fire, something goes wrong in the data center, especially with VMware, there's usually some reactive monitoring product that will tell you that something went down. Then what we usually did is we Googled the symptoms. So we were trying to find whether there's anything on the internet that will tell us what happened and how to solve it. And in most of the cases, we ended up reading a knowledge base article. In fact, when we did analysis on all the problem tickets that were created related to VMware outages, we realized that over 90% of them, the root cause was based on a known issue that was already in the knowledge base. And this is where we got the idea that we could have a product or something to use that valuable information proactively and tell us in advance whether our configuration is at risk of running into one of those thousands of problems in the VMware knowledge base. So this is the main issue, that this massive amount of IT knowledge is really used reactively. Along the way, since we decided to implement that idea, we looked at other problems that we had in operations. One big one is that we had to do security health checks manually, which was a problem because we did that a few times a year. It was really time-taking, so we had to go through big Excel spreadsheets and check every ESXi host virtual machine, whether it's compliant with the particular security policy for that client. And whenever we had security audits, there was still some gaps discovered, something that had changed along the time since we've done the last security check. So this was not really working well for us. Another problem that we saw in operations is that as we were going to different VMware accounts, we saw that in many cases best practices were rarely used. So we had to create this fit gap analysis and recommend what should change in the environment in order to align more to best practices. So that's another problem that we decided to tackle and to automate the best practices analysis. Another problem that we had in VMware operations is that we were collecting a lot of logs from the VMware systems, especially from ESXi, but they were practically unusable. So we had either some syslog server or even in some cases login site, which is providing great search functionalities, but you have to know what you're searching for. So we decided to build Runecast in a way that provides great value to the VMware admin. It tells them exactly what problem has been detected and what is the resolution. In general, we were losing a lot of time in troubleshooting, and business was suffering for those customers that were running VMware. Since we're talking about the VMware knowledge base, I'm sure all of you have been to that platform many, many times, and usually in quite stressful times. But I just want to give you a very small example of potential KBs that could happen to anybody or known issues described in KBs. And the first one especially is special for us because it was the final drop when we decided to build something like Runecast Analyzer, because this happened to one of our customers. At some point, one of the ESXi hosts failed, and HA did not work for some reason. So the virtual machines were not restarted on the surviving hosts. We had to do a lot of troubleshooting. The customer got really nervous. They started restarting the rest of the hosts. So it was a big chaos for almost 2 days until we find what the root cause was. And the root cause was improperly configured VMFS heap size on some of the ESXi hosts, which together with the amount of virtual disks that were assigned to the virtual machines in that cluster led to HA not functioning. So we discovered that in a KB article. Then our management told us that we have to look at all the hundreds of accounts that we're managing, customers, to make sure that they're not at risk from that one single KB or known issue. And there are over 30,000 KB articles in the VMware knowledge base. So you can imagine how impractical or impossible it would be to make sure manually that you're not at risk from any of these. There's really tons of KBs. I just put a recent one here, the L1TF, that became quite popular. Such issues like L1TF or Spectre and Meltdown, they're of course popular. Everybody knows about them, so maybe you can get easily informed. We are including such issues very quickly within 24 hours in Runecast Analyzer, so you can make sure that your environment is protected against the latest risks. But there's tons, hundreds of KBs that are more specific, that you may be at risk from those known issues, but you might not know about it because you're not familiar with the KB or you haven't checked your configuration manually. So we started Runecast in end of 2014, and we released Runecast Analyzer version 1.0 for San Francisco VMworld in 2015. So we have been running for 3 years. I mean, the product has been on the market for 3 years. The product comes pre-packaged in an OVA appliance. It's about 1 gig appliance that you can just download from our website, deploy it or import it in your environment, set up an IP address, and you can be up and running in a few minutes. The next step is just to connect it to 1 or more vCenter servers and NSX managers in order to start collecting the information. And within 20 seconds to 2 minutes, you'll be able to already see the first results and the first discovered issues. As mentioned earlier, the sources of information that we're automating are mainly the VMware knowledge base, which is changing all the time. So there are new KB articles that are created on a daily basis. Old ones are being updated with new information as well. We're staying on top of that. We're making sure that we capture everything, and we parse all the relevant information, put it in our central repository, and then is distributed or downloaded by the Runecast Analyzer instances that run on customer premises. So Runecast runs on-prem. It can work even in completely offline mode, which means that you would need to update it by downloading an ISO file from our website, attaching it to the virtual machine, and performing the update this way.
Do you feed that data into and or out of a SIM, or do you use the standard vCenter database for all of the information that's sort of being fed into Runecast?
Do you mean from a knowledge point of view or from a configuration?
From the acquired information, the health check, whatever information. I mean, vCenter has a lot of stuff in it.
Oh, yeah.
You're checking stuff that we never see.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And obviously, you're checking those faults, those error messages, whatever, against these sort of, including some social media references as well. But where does it get the collection? Is it only coming out of the vCenter, or is there, say, a Splunk database that could be used as a SIM to?
So there are several sources. A lot of it comes from vCenter because vCenter collects a lot of information, especially configuration information. So we use the Vsphere SDK to collect that. We also connect directly to the ESXi hosts. We authorize through vCenter and or authenticate through vCenter and then send SOAP requests to the ESXi host to get some of the details there. And we also use CIM to get hardware details firmware levels from the ESXi host directly. For NSX, we collect all of the information from the NSX managers. So these are the points.
And the same sort of concept around vSAN as well?
Yes, vSAN is a different API endpoint on vCenter itself. So,
sure, yeah.
Yeah, so okay. we collect it from there. Yeah. Additional thing, of course, the ESXi hosts are sending their logs via syslog as well to Runecast Analyzer, which acts as a syslog server, so that it can also discover potential issues in the log entries in real time. So these are the sources of information that we use, the VMware knowledge base, best practices and social media. So some of the issues that are documented out there first come out as blog articles or some forum posts that we're monitoring. And we validate those, and we sometimes include them in the product before they're even documented by the vendor, so that customers can be protected at all times against the all known issues out there. The best practices are coming from many different sources, so white papers, documentation, and for each one of them we provide also the reference where you can read more in official source as well. We automated the Vsphere security hardening guides and NSX security hardening guides, so you can continuously make sure that you're compliant against those. If some of the checks are not relevant to you, you can switch them off, so you can filter out some of the security checks. And also we automated the Dss 6 Compliance Checklist, which is perfect for federal agencies. And something new that we just released last week is the Pci Dss Compliance Checklist as well, which contains over 200 different checks that map to Pci Dss controls and requirements from Pci Dss. We also have written justification for each one of those mappings, which is really important, especially when you have an audit, to be able to prove and justify why the fact that this particular technical parameter, because of the way it's configured, it satisfies certain Pci Dss security control. We released version 2.0 just a week ago. We're really proud of it. So we redesigned the UI. We have added some new cool functionality. One important thing that we added is the historical data reports. So previously what we used to do with Runecast, you could see the history of the issues appearing in your logs. We were keeping that, but in terms of configuration analysis, you could see just the latest scan and what kind of issues are currently in your environment. What we decided to do based on customer feedback is to create some reports on how your configuration was changing over time and what kind of issues were detected. So you can see why some new issues appeared. Maybe you changed something in the configuration, or VMware released a new knowledge base article. And you can also keep track of how compliant you are historically. That could be also really useful. And you can also make sure that you are mitigating gradually the risks in your environment as you move along.
Is there any functionality within those historical data reports to show what your performance looks like before and after you hit certain percentages with your compliance? See if there was a performance impact from actually putting yourself into more compliance with any of the security requirements?
I would say the security checks, so we're not really collecting performance metrics. So that's how we differ from different performance capacity management tools out there. But usually the security checks are not so much related to performance, actually. I mean, they're more like, do you have empty passwords on SSH, or do you have SSH enabled, or certain advanced settings on the virtual machines, and so forth. We additionally updated all the internal components of the appliance. It's running Ubuntu and also components of the Elk stack, PostgreSQL, Tomcat. This is all to the latest versions, and of course using all compliant protocols like TLS 1.2, for example. So the appliance itself is secure and compliant as well. All right. I just wanted to show you this one because I think it looks really cool. I think we're the first third party to use the new NSX 6.4 custom widgets. So you can actually see, I mean, we have a web client plugin that Aylin will be able to show later on, but we also show the results from the Runecast Analyzer analysis directly into NSX Manager. Into your Vsphere client, so you can see how many critical, major, medium, low issues are detected in your NSX. And this is how the new user interface looks like. For those of you that have tried Runecast 1.x before, we have done some changes here. We have made it more usable, and we also decided to introduce the issues history, this widget, this new functionality that we added to Runecast Analyzer, and it's right there on your main dashboard. So you can see the information from the previous scans on the previous days or weeks, and you can see how you're doing in terms of security compliance, best practice adoption, what is the trend, are you becoming more compliant or less. Oh, you can also see the top hosts with issues, so you can see where really to focus your efforts and which are the most problematic ESXi hosts in your environment.
Is there any sort of auto remediation built into the product so that the customer running it doesn't have to see all the misconfigurations they have in their environment and manually change them to get in compliance? Surely they're going to want to do their due diligence and understand what they're doing ahead of time. But you offer the capability of helping them do changes within your UI rather than finding out how to do it on their own.
So we're pretty cautious about making any changes on the environment. I think a lot of our customers are happy that they have the peace of mind that Runecast will not break anything. And in fact, you can even run, the connection with vCenter can be with read-only account. So you can make sure that it will not make any disruptive changes. A lot of the detected KBs, in order to remediate them, you can take different paths, different workarounds, and some of them are quite disruptive, like installing an update or a patch. So that's one of the main reasons we didn't include such auto-remediation, because it would potentially be quite disruptive. For some of those checks that we perform, especially this stick, there is a script, PowerCLI, that you can choose to run or not, but it can also help admins just to copy-paste it and to run it on the particular objects in order to remediate them.
Okay. So say I just, taking that into account, get a report and it has like 29 red alerts on it. Is there any guidance beyond like they're critical as to which are the most critical and I should address these first? Because if I got 29 things on my list, how do I have any idea of what's the most important to address first? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we rated each one of the issues from critical to low, so there's like 4 different levels: critical, major, medium, low. And we have also provided additional categorizations of which infrastructure layer this particular issue affects, whether it's management, VM, compute, network, or storage, and which design quality, whether it's availability, manageability, performance, recoverability, or security. So this can also help you based on whether security is most important for you. You could filter out based on security and tackle just the critical ones. So this could be your starting point. If you are into, if you're required, for example, to do Pci Dss compliance, what we have included there is the different milestones that are in the official Pci Dss documentation that are from 1 to 6, 1 being the highest severity and 6 the lowest severity. So you can follow the recommended PCI Council prioritized approach towards mitigating the gaps in your Pci Dss compliance. So you can start with milestone 1 and move down to milestone 6.
So that's a really important detail. And I think PCI compliance is massive. Mm-hmm. Inclusion of things like HIPAA, data sovereignty, those kinds of compliance issues coming as part of this as well?
So currently, in terms of security profiles, we have included the security hardening guides and then this stick 6 and PCI DSS. Mm-hmm. HIPAA, for example, is one of the things that are on the immediate roadmap.
Excellent.
And one of the things that I can comment on is even before adding PCI DSS, Runecast Analyzer, just running it and using it continuously, was already satisfying some of the PCI DSS controls, because some of the controls are talking about
keeping monitors going.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And
My next question, though, is sort of a follow-up, and that's, does this reach out to stretch clusters? Does this, it's primarily a VMware vCenter-based tool set. Does it expand beyond that? Is there any chance that we might be able to get these kinds of reports out of AWS, VMware on AWS kind of environment?
Yeah, so we are certified on VMware Cloud on AWS. We did certification last year, and we're testing with each new edition of VMC on AWS. Currently, the only functionality that would not work is the log analysis, but everything else works if you run.
So, but that's where something like a data sovereignty criticality comes into play, right? If you're putting it up in the cloud and you don't know where your data is going, we want to see that as well. But okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to, these are some of the things that customers are saying about us. So they're saying that it's like having a VMware technician 24/7 auditing your VMware environment. And we really like to see ourselves as providing our expertise of our team and putting them into your data center so that Runecast Analyzer can use those and make sure that your environment is free of any risks. We had other comments like the tool we always wanted from VMware. That was an interesting one. And also the fact that everybody can just deploy the product and get it running in a few minutes and already get the insights is also something very important. As you know, a lot of the products out there, especially those that have been around for many years, have a lot of bells and whistles. They might require many days of courses even to start with them. We are building the product for admins. We are admins ourselves. So we're building it with this mindset. What is the most valuable information admins need to keep their environment up and running and compliant?
What about like consultants or professional services organizations? Can they use it as a tool for a customer that just doesn't have time for this kind of thing, but they can go in and use it in their environment?
I guess that kind of goes back to like, how does it licensed? I mean,
yes.
Do you have an MSP program? Can you do monthly?
Yep, we do have MSP program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was getting at.